Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video we are going to be doing a gel polish and acrylic ombre, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now before we jump into the design, I just wanted to show you guys these tips that I picked up for the red iguana hand. So as you can see, these are quite long and they are a natural shade and a long square in shape, but I picked these up off Amazon and they work really well in the Glamour Liz hand because they work as the nail bed and then they've got quite a bit of length on them, so you can just work straight on top of them like I'm going to do today. So as you can see, they slide out nice and easy. They're not going to cause any damage to the hand, and I felt as though they fitted really nicely. They go quite far down around to that sort of first knuckle area, so they're really secure in the hand. And I had a couple of questions on Instagram about what tips I was using in the red iguana hand, as I did only recently pick this up. So I've been ordering a few different ones and trying a few different ones, so I will share any I find and leave links to them in the description box below. But this was my first time working directly on top of these without adding any additional tips for length, where normally I would use shorter natural tips that go up to create a free edge, and then I would apply clear tips to extend the length of the nail. So these kind of add a bit of length without having to do that step, which is great when you are just using the hand to practice or create content like we are here. So yeah, I'll leave them linked in the description box below. I picked them off of Amazon and I think they was around £4, so they were quite a bargain for the amount of tips that you get in there as well. Now for this design, I did want to still pop down a clear base, so I'm just coming in with a thin layer of clear acrylic. So I normally would do this whenever I'm applying my tips, or if I'm sculpting, I'd sculpt a thin clear base. I always like to have a clear base down before I come in and do any kind of design. And with today's design, we are actually encapsulating a gel polish in acrylic, so it's really important that that gel polish is sandwiched between two layers of acrylic. So you want to make sure that you've got a nice clear base layer down to begin with. So I'm using the Diamond Nail Supplies Clarity Clear Acrylic for this, and as you can see, I'm just picking up a small bead of acrylic, placing it slightly back from that cuticle area, pushing it up towards the cuticle, blending it in, and then just pulling it down so it covers the entire tip of the nail. I would do this ever so slightly thicker if I was working on myself, but because we're working on a practice hand, I don't want to end up with the design or the nails looking too bulky. Now for our colours, I'm going to be using 4 colours from the Pastel Neon collection from Kiki London. So these are all really bright, kind of like a neon shade, but they've got that pastel element to them, so they are super pretty for both spring and summer. So the gorgeous pink we had there was Chick Flick, and then I love this yellow. It is such a gorgeous yellow. I'm not a huge fan of neon yellows, so this pastel neon is right up my street. And I absolutely love this purple as well. This is one of my favorite purples from Kiki London. This is Purple Rain. And then lastly, I wanted to add on an orange, so we have Peach Side. And I was going to do the thumbnail as well, but I didn't because the video was already edging to quite long. But I did pick out the green that's in this collection for the thumb as well. So I might still do the thumb, but maybe do it as a reel for Instagram and TikTok. So keep an eye out for that. Now I'm just going to simply paint on the tip of the nail with these gel polishes. So starting off with our pink, and I'm going to take this quite far down the nail because I wasn't 100% sure at this point what core acrylic color I was going for. I had 2 in mind, and one of them was a little bit more pigmented than the other, so I wanted to make sure that I was taking the colored gel polish quite far down the nail so that it's not going to be, you're not going to have, I wanted to, gosh, I'm really struggling to get my words out. I wanted to make sure you're going to still see a lot of the coloured tip, and it was going to really pop and you were going to see that ombre. So I'm blending it quite far down. I did just grab my ombre brush just to blend that back a little bit, just so that there's not a harsh line where that colour ends. But because we are coming over with an acrylic colour, it did blend quite nicely because it's got quite a decent amount of pigmentation to it. So now we're going to come in and add on the yellow. I believe this yellow is Glow Stick. So I'm painting this on again, taking it just past halfway down the nail and blending it back using that ombre brush. Whenever you are doing any kind of ombre, whether it be gel polish, acrylic, builder gel, you always want to make sure that you are blending your first color out, especially when you are using quite pigmented colors, because otherwise it does tend to show that harsh line where the color ends. So just by blending it back, you're softening the color a little bit, but then there isn't a harsh line, it's kind of jagged, blended in. So I'm just very gently blending this back. Now another thing that I wanted to mention is you want to make sure that you're putting this gel polish over a nice smooth acrylic layer. So if you've applied your clear acrylic base and it's a little bit uneven, you can come in and buff that first of all, just to make sure that it's nice and smooth, because if you start putting your gel polish over an uneven base, it will be really noticeable. So just if you're not 100% confident with getting a smooth acrylic application, then apply your acrylic as normal and then give the nails a quick buff, remove any dust, and then come in with your gel polish. And I am going to do this in 2 coats because, like I said, I really want the colors to pop in this ombre, and these gel polishes do have a recommendation of 2 coats. So I'm keeping those coats nice and thin. So we're going to come in and do basically exactly the same again with our second coat. So just coming over, applying a thin coat of that gel polish and blending it back. On the second coat, I tried not to take it as far down the nail because obviously you're going to blend it back and we don't want to start covering up even more of that cuticle and nail bed area, as I have only left quite a small area. But when it all come together, once I'd done the ombre, I was quite impressed with how the overall effect looked. Now, this was a technique that I did ages ago. I used to do this quite a lot on myself when I didn't have too many acrylic colours, but I had quite a lot of gel polish colours. I've always loved ombres. They're always one of my favourite designs to do. So this was a technique I used to do quite a lot on myself, and it's always worked well. I've never had any issues with the acrylic peeling off or anything like that. You can come in and buff your colour if you want it to make sure that it's going to adhere really well before you come in and do your acrylic ombre, but I didn't today. I just used a matte top coat, but I have done both ways. I've buffed the surface of the gel polish. I think I have an older video showing that, so I'll see if I can find it, because I remember it was around maybe 2, maybe even 3 years ago. But yeah, it's a technique that I've tried a few times, and I find it great if you have more gel polish shades than you do acrylic shades and you want to still create fun ombre designs, especially where we're going into the spring and summer. I sometimes do find that coloured gel polishes can be a little bit easier to work with than coloured acrylics, especially when it comes to things like neon. I've really struggled to find good neon acrylics that don't marble. If you do have any recommendations, by the way, pop them in the comments below. So now I've applied that second coat of gel polish, popped that into Cure. Like I said, we're going to come over the top with a no wipe matte top coat. If you don't have a matte top coat, you can come over the top with a clear top coat and then buff that so that it's matte. The reason I like to go with a matte top coat is because the acrylic tends to not slide around as much where it's not shiny and not glossy. So you could either do this with your matte top coat and then come in and buff, or you can do it like I'm doing today and just matte top coat. And then if you don't have a matte top coat, then just apply one coat of your glossy top coat and buff away the shine. Just be really careful. You want to make sure that you're only applying these layers of gel nice and thin, so that if you are going to buff, you want to make sure that you're being really careful that you don't buff too much away, because the top coat is kind of just sealing in that gel polish and making sure that we can get a nice blend over the top. Now for our acrylic colour, I went for CJP Obsession. This is one of my favourite colours to ombre with because it's sheer enough that it covers up any harsh lines, but it's kind of got a little bit of transparency to it that it's really easy to blend with. Now whenever I'm doing any kind of ombre and it's a colour that I've not ombreed with before, or if I'm feeling a little like I'm lacking confidence in the ombre, I will work with the acrylic like I'm going to do today. So because these are quite bright colours, I was worrying how much I would need of the acrylic colour to cover up that harsh line and create a nice blend between our gel polishes and our nail bed area. So I like to come in with a small bead of acrylic first of all, work with this quite wet, place it down the cuticle area and blend it over that gel polish line. And then I'm going to come in with another bead of colour, another bead of acrylic, place that down at the cuticle area, tap it into place, and then just pull this over that blend line. I will talk through it a bit better on the remaining nails. You do want to make sure that you're being really careful that you're not pulling the colour too far down the nail, because we want to keep that nice bright pink shade at the very tip. These two colours blended so well together. The pink blended beautifully into the Obsession acrylic that it's really hard to see where one colour ends and the next starts. On to the next nail with the yellow, it was a little bit trickier because obviously the yellow is very bright and it's a completely different colour to the Obsession acrylic. So you see, first of all, I come in with this wet bead of acrylic. It's nice and small so we can work with it, but I know that it's going to be a little bit more of a trickier colour to blend compared to what it was on the little finger. So I've worked with that small bead of acrylic, I've blended it down, but I pulled a lot of it off because it was covering up the yellow too much. I was taking it too far down the nail. Then I've come in with a slightly more medium to dry consistency bead, and what I'm doing here as well is I'm leaving a lot of this acrylic in that back third to build up that nail bed area. We're building up our strength and structure with our apex here as well. Then I'm very gently patting it out from side to side, but I'm using the product a little bit drier so that the opacity comes through a little bit more and it doesn't look as sheer. And then I'm just having to work with that acrylic a little bit more to blend it down so that we're covering up the line where the yellow ends, but not covering up that yellow gel polish at the tip of the nail. So I'm doing lots of blending, lots of feathering. Here and there, you'll see that I'm removing little bits of acrylic where I've taken that colour too far down the nail. Here, I'm completely cleaning off the tip of the nail with a little bit of monomer. This is why it's important to have that layer of top coat over your gel polish colours so that you're not going to start rubbing off or breaking down any of the gel polish shade. Then on this now, I did come in with a third bead of acrylic just to really perfect that ombre, and again I'm keeping these beads of acrylic quite small so that we can perfect the ombre and get a really nice blend, but without adding too much acrylic to the nail that the overall nail is going to end up thick and bulky. So again, into my bead of acrylic, I'm picking up a small bead of acrylic to begin with, getting a neat cuticle line with this bead, tapping it out from side to side, and then gently just blending this down to cover up that line where the gel polish ends. Not stressing at this point about creating a blend or creating an ombre. I'm just covering up that line where the gel polish ends, wiping off any excess because we do really want to keep those tips of the nails nice and clean from the acrylic. Then I'm picking up a more medium, drier consistency bead. I do drain the back of the bead, so when you see my brush go out of shot, I'm just draining the back of that bead of acrylic on a paper towel just so it's a little bit more of a medium to dry consistency. And then with this bead, again, we're getting it nice and neat at that cuticle area, but we are building up a little bit of thickness to create our apex and then perfecting our blend all in one with this bead of acrylic. And again, this colour blended absolutely beautiful over the Purple Rain. I think these two colours were my favourite combination. I really loved that purple against the pinky nude shade. Same again on this now as well. So again, coming in with a small bead of acrylic. This one was a little bit tricky, like the yellow, to get a really neat blend. So I did have to play around with it a little bit. And you can kind of tell on that first bead of acrylic whether it's going to be a little bit harder. And I'm glad I took the acrylic that bit further down because you do cover up more of the nail with your acrylic than what you feel you're going to. So it's a little bit different to when you're doing an acrylic ombre or a gel polish ombre where you're sticking with the same systems for both parts of the nail. I just love this technique though. If you've tried it before, do let me know in the comments below. I haven't done loads of acrylic videos on my channel over the last year, so I'm kind of going over some of the things that I used to love doing to help me get back into the swing of doing them. So if you do have any suggestions of any designs you would like to see, drop them in the comments below and I'll give them a go. I really want to do some more encapsulated foils in acrylic because again, that's another thing that I personally really love doing and I really love wearing on my own nails as well. I'm really excited as well to get more into the swing of some spring summer designs too. So now we're finishing up this last ombre, we are going to come in and encapsulate all of these nails with clear. I think I just show you guys encapsulating 2 of the nails as I didn't want the video to be too repetitive. To encapsulate, I'm using my absolute favorite clear acrylic, which is Diamond Nail Supplies Clarity. So I picked up a medium-sized bead of acrylic, placing it down on the nail, and I'm blending it back over that cuticle and apex area, but I'm not building up any thickness there because we have built up all of that structure with the Obsession acrylic. So here I'm kind of just focusing this layer of acrylic on encapsulating our blend so that we don't ruin that blend when we're filing, but also to build up the thickness and the structure for the very tip of the nail. Now this does not need to be thick, your tips should be like the thinnest part of the nail, so you don't have to stress too much about building up too much thickness here, especially if you've made sure that you've built up all of your apex and your structure there. But I do like to blend this back so it's blending in to that apex area and making sure that there's enough acrylic running down the center of the nail. This one especially was looking a little bit thin, so I'm coming in with another bead of acrylic and just blending that back just to make sure everything is fully encapsulated, and I'm going over it as best as I can to get it as neat as possible. Off camera I did finish off encapsulating the rest of the nails exactly the same as these 2, and then I did also do all of the filing, buffing and all of that jazz, so you can see that they've got a nice refined shape as well, and they're nice and they've got a nice balance to them. They're not too thick, they've got a nice apex built, and then I made sure to clean away all of that dust before we come in and top coat. Now originally I was going to do these glossy, but I absolutely loved how soft and pretty they looked matte, so I decided to come in and matte top coat them. So I'm going to take a thin coat of the Kiki London No White matte top coat and apply this to all of the nails, and this does go on glossy, so it gives you an idea of what the nails would look like if we did glossy top coat them, and I do think they look super pretty, shiny, but matte they just look dreamy. I think they give them more of a softer look for spring as well. Glossy, I think they would look a lot better in the summer because it makes the colours pop that little bit more, where a matte finish just makes them look a little bit softer. Now once I have applied this top coat to all of the nails, I'm going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds, and then we are at the end of the video. I have left you guys some clips and some pictures of the finished results, so do check them out. As always, I will leave all of the products I've used listed in the description box below, but if you have any questions or if I miss any, then do pop me a comment below and I will be happy to help. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, it really helps my channel, and if you aren't already subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscription button. I don't upload super regular, but I'm trying my hardest to get 1 video out a week, and hopefully we can get a little bit more out now as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing this set, so I hope you guys all enjoyed watching. Thank you all so much for you guys who made it to the end of the video. Lots of love. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye bye.